Honore Karakia he mangarongi whenua whakapai ki ngā tangata katoa. Tō mātou mātou I te rangi, rangi a mātou I tō mātou hui. Arahina mai a mātou I tō mātou kōrero ki te huarahi pai. Tino tō mātou it's tangata wai o tapu. Glory to God in the highest, peace to His people on earth, and Heavenly Father, bless this meeting and all within it and guide our deliberations. Amen.
Amen. We have apologies from Ian Hartshorn, Councillor Cogan, and an apology from Joanne. Okay, 2 apologies there. Would someone like to move them, please? Thanks, Councillor Neal. I'll second that. Councillor Hart, those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Move on to the declarations of interest. It's again a very important part of our responsibilities as councillors. If you have an interest in something that's coming up on the agenda or that's coming up in the future, please make sure you adjust the interest register. It's on the team systems, so you can do it there. Or alternatively, it's being passed around the table once again. Are there any urgent items that should be on the agenda that are not? Thank you. Move on to the minutes, item 6 of the agenda, the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting 25th of February 2021. Now the minutes have been sent to all councillors asking for feedback. There's been no request for feedback. Is there any feedback around the table today? Someone like to move the minutes of the Ordinary Council meeting held on the 25th of February 2021 be confirmed as a true and correct record of the meeting. So move. Deputy Mayor Carruthers, Councillor Neal, those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes of the Extraordinary Chief Executive's Review Committee meeting, dated the 16th of March 2021, would one of those members present like to move that the minutes of the Extraordinary Chief Executive's Review Committee meeting held on the 16th of March 2021 be received? Councillor Martin, you second that? Okay. Thank you. Now, I approve that my digital signature move on. That's a good point. Move on to that second lot, which was the Extraordinary Council meeting minutes of the 16th of March 2021. Once again, the minutes have been placed up on Teams for feedback. There's been no feedback requested. Would someone like to move the minutes of the Extraordinary Council meeting held on the 16th of March 2021 be confirmed as a true and correct record of that meeting? Councillor Davidson, thank you.
And I was there.
Yeah. Councillor Martin, those in favour?
Aye.
Move on to item 6 on the agenda, which is the, yeah, I think you're right. It's a good thing Meg's here today.
If we don't.
I approve that my digital signature be added to the confirmed meeting minutes, Ordinary Council meeting held on the 25th February 2021, and the Extraordinary Council meeting held on the 16th of March 2021. Thank you for that, Meg. Item 6 on the agenda, which is on pages 6 to 8 of your agenda, is the action list, and hand it over to the Chief Executive.
Good afternoon, Your Bishop and Councillors. I'll just take you through the action list one point by one point. So we're making progress on the Canary School cycle trail crossing. So a meeting was held out with councillors and some modifications were suggested and have been incorporated into the new design. I can confirm also that the lights have actually arrived in New Zealand from overseas, finally, and should be shipped here over the next few weeks. So those actions will be completed in the near future. The Fox landfill. I can confirm that the clean-up has been completed. Really, very pleased with the outcome and the outsourcing of that work to Alpha Investor Guides. They did an exceptionally professional job, considering the weather played its part as well to enable them to do a lot of the clean-up. In terms of the remediation works at Fox, the site itself, all the material has been relocated, just over 14,000 tonnes, so the site is now clear and been audited and been signed off as clear, which obviously has removed the significant risk factor. We are in the process of rebuilding the infrastructure down there and protection works. That should be completed over the next couple of weeks. We're in the final process and the tender is out for Butler's landfill, so that is underway now. And we expect to see that coming through by the end of April. Next item is the iwi representation around the council table. This is obviously through the last meeting was signed back to council to take lead. So I believe Councillor Martin and Councillor Hart are going to take the lead with our iwi representation and come back with the recommendations going forward. Bearing in mind that we do have a remit. If we want to put it into remit, there is a deadline to do that. Obviously, staff can help through the process as well. Hakatika Wastewater Treatment Plant. We had a kick-off meeting with our iwi partners last week. Through the recommendation of them, we've actually decided to hold a full workshop at the Arahura Marae. The date has been set now for the 7th of April, so we'll get that locked in and confirmed. Looking forward to that engagement. Subcommittee committee structures for council. I've asked that we defer this to the April meeting. We have been inundated with LTP work in the last few weeks, so haven't committed any time to revisiting this. So we'll come back in April now for a revised proposal. Gillespie's Beach Miners Cemetery closure. We have reached out to the owners. Unfortunately, well, to date we have had no replies. So we'll give it another 30 days from now and consider that action closed. So we have reached out to relevant, I suppose, stakeholders that have invested interest in that cemetery. Speed limit register review. This is obviously on hold until we've had the NZTA review and speed limits review. Ross Chinese Gardens. Last week we had a second round of public engagement. So ourselves and DOC and the community now are all on the same page in terms of resolution going forward. There's a bit of engineering work to be developed, which we'll look at, and also a resource consent application that will need to be completed to enable that action to be finalised. There is another piece of work that the community and Councillor Cogan are going to assist with that process, which is developing a master plan for the lakefront or the lake surrounds. So we'll keep an eye on that in terms of progress as well. Another action from the last council meeting, in Borrows School's presentation, there was a request that we reach out to regional council in terms of their contribution towards making this success. I get to do that and still an action to be completed. There's also a request for Mark Davies to come speak to council. I think that's due to May now. This is in regards to reinstigating the National Park Plan Review for South Westland. And alongside it is obviously the current status of the CMS review as well. Workshop with Western Holding directors. This is obviously was to do with the governance structure and the SOI. That was completed last week. We can sign that one off as a completed action. And workshop with Western Holdings directors and DW in regards to the discussion around the pension and housing strategy, and report back to the Economic Development Committee for May. This is to do it prior to the pre-May meeting. Happy to take any questions, Your Worship.
Thanks, Simon. I'll just kick off with the iwi representation, and just advise that there have been discussions continuing with mayors in the South Island, in the Ngāi Takiwai, where our hope is to get all 24 mayors and chairs together in partnership with Ngāi Tahu to discuss the way we go forward. So it's at an early stage, but initial indications are very supportive from some of the bigger players. We're only an end in the whole thing. However, it's really important in the three water discussion that there are councils like Christchurch who have said unless the three waters controlling authority in the South Island is unless it's based around the Ngāi Tahu Takiwai, it's not going to happen. That was a fairly common theme in Christchurch a couple of days ago, and so I'm actually quite enthusiastic that we can, at some stage, open discussions with iwi around the table and with the 24 mayors. I think it would be a game changer for the South Island.
What sort of timeline is it likely to be, Bruce? Is it going to extend it out further than what we were hoping?
Simon, what's your
Obviously getting mayors around the table, there's already studies being done in terms of what a Canterbury Mayor Reform review of the three waters reform is all about. So they've got a position where they want to pitch, and it does support what Ms. Worship is saying, that it is a partnership with iwi all the way through this. So I think there's a common theme that can be worked through. The issue, I don't think it has the time to become a remit process. There's a lot of legal aspects ticked off on the way. But in terms of ongoing, this is the way we would like to do business going forward, forever and a day with our iwi partners, definitely there's considerable the opportunity to make that happen.
Yeah.
I don't think we can commit ourselves to locking in a time frame, but I understand that three waters reform commits to a time frame, but it can always be challenged if there's a lack of support on the table.
And we have a discussion between the mayors in the next few days as to what happened at the Three Waters meeting, and then on the 30th of April we have a formal get together in Christchurch where iwi will be present, all the leaders will be present, and I'm hoping that will be the start of a conversation.
Or the cementing of a position of where we are standing.
So Paul and Francois are likely to be there as well?
Paul.
Yeah.
So it's not just the Canterbury Ngāi Tahu. Well represented. Cool.
Just talking about the Three Waters reform, there's a very clear guidance in terms of how that those future entities, if they do become apparent, how they're governed. So there's obviously a strong iwi involvement in terms of the stakeholder engagement and also the governance area. Current indication is 50-50 split between local government and iwi. So there's 100% full partners at this point. So how that's made up is yet to be quantified. That's a quite a big piece of work to do.
So this is seen as the first stepping stone to the iwi representation around the table for everything.
It's part of the discussion. I mean, from our council's point of view, we've always believed that the iwi around the table should be both able to vote, not just at subcommittee stage, and be recompensed in the same way. So it's part of a discussion. I think we have some way to go. But do Francois or Paul have any comments to make? Francois, you have anything to add?
Yeah, no, I agree with what both yourself, Bruce, and Simon are saying. There is some really, really strong support throughout the Ngāi Takiwā within Runanga and councils for something to happen in this space. So it will be quite groundbreaking, I think, and it'll be interesting to see how the northern iwi look at it once this thing starts to crank up. But it'll be the first of a show of strength and a show of partnership, a true partnership that is, if we can get some traction in this space, which is looking more and more likely every day. So I'm really looking forward to the hui over in Christchurch, which I think will set the tone for it going forward. There is a few councils that are a wee bit nervous. I'd say nervous, say the other word. But yeah, I think it's quite positive.
Paul?
Yeah, it's quite heartening, really, the support that came out of everyone in Christchurch. We did indicate right from the start of this 3 months process that the Ngāi position was that the new entity needs to be over the Ngāi, aligned with the Ngāi Takiwā. Whereas there was the initial thinking about this Super 12 model or another one that gravitated towards Nelson Marlborough, which wouldn't suit us at all. So the Ngāi model is where we're at, and so yeah, it is heartening to hear that has support right around the Motu. 2 matters, of course, one being the 3 quarters, the other being the representation at the council table. Councillor Neil's question. And although we might be an ant, and this is, as the Mayor described us in the scheme of things Te Waipounga, this council is a pioneer though in representation around the table, and it is being eyed as a model. Regardless of that, the legislative change around Māori wards, there's another way that can be done, and this council has shown that.
Thanks, Paul. Right, we'll go to the action list. Councillor Davidson.
Yeah, just on the speed limit register review, I don't quite understand what this was saying.
If you recall the last council meeting, we said that NTTA are undergoing a full review already in terms of their proposed speed limit changes.
Yeah.
So we had some changes we had put aside to do at a future stage. We talked about a few of the changes that we went through the last consultation process.
That's right.
That will park out until we find out exactly where NTTA will land with their proposal change. So rather than preempt what their decision will be, we just align with them. Unless there's an urgent requirement for each specific area, I'd rather wait until we actually know what's going to happen in this space.
And that's fine. And what's the timeline for that?
They indicated sometime this year.
That's fine. Thank you.
Councillor Neil.
Yeah, no, good, thank you.
Francois. Councillor Hart. Councillor Martin.
Worship, the crossing at Kaniri, we had the site meeting, Councillor Davidson, myself and staff, and just clarifying that what was discussed there was the location of the crossing, but also wanting to connect that crossing with the work that's been done at the whole site, the reserve. So it may be that the crossing from council staff perspective needs to sit between the pub and West Roads for line of sight. But ideally when you go across from the Pub and West Road side of the road, there would be a two-way footpath or bike lane on the other side that would connect to the reserve as well as connect to the trail. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, so it's additional footpath requirements.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. And no, that's good. The other thing that we discussed there was the hard left turn off the bridge and the fact that that's still existing from when it was a state highway. So I don't know if that was reported back to you at all. Maybe Councillor Davidson wants to talk about that just
Yeah,
quickly.
that's correct. Like perhaps the approach would be just to go straight, then give way, and then turn left, rather than have that curve coming round at a speed.
Oh, okay, just stop them completely.
Yeah, well, yeah, just slow them right down. Yeah.
Is it? Okay. Oh, I need to understand it a bit further, so I'll take that back as a after review.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I just raised those just so we're all on the same page in terms of what's happening, because hate to think we're all aligned and it's not. So that's good. The iwi sounds like we need to have further discussion, but it sounds positive. I don't necessarily agree with waiting for NZTA to review the speed limits, particularly for the ones around the lake. I think they constantly get requested to be lowered, and we put temporary signage up each summer in terms of Hans Bay and Sunny Bight. And I think I'd actually completely dump Kokatahi and Kuwhitirangi. I don't even think we need to go there again. And look at,
Some of those, what I'm saying, some of those may not be in our control.
That's right. And we may implement a speed that's different to what NZTA ultimately determined, but I think at least we've got a standard that we can then lobby them for. Like the residents and visitors to the lake want a lower speed limit. It'd be hard for us to, if they say no, we're going to keep it 50 or 80, it'd be hard for us to agree with that, I think. I think we'd be advocating for it to be lowered anyway. So I don't see the risk. I don't know that it's necessarily a huge administrative expense to consult on speed limits. I don't know where the figures came from last time about how much it was going to cost. But, it was quoted quite an exorbitant cost to do the work. And I would just put the whole list of speed limits up and say we're identifying those ones as needing to be rectified. And if you have strong feelings on any others, please submit. And then just close it off, because otherwise we'll be here in 2 years. It'll be 12 months before NZTA do anything. That's just my view.
Point noted. I think I need to familiarise myself with exactly the time frame, so I'll come back to these council with recommendations.
Thank you. Who pays for the Ross Chinese Garden work?
So we've committed to undertaking the resources process.
Oh, yeah, so we'll pick that up. Yep. And what about the
so that, until we've got a engineering design, I don't think there's too much work to do the work. Mm-hmm. And at the moment, Reeds have indicated that they are willing to pick up the cost.
Okay.
I'll still have to quantify exactly the cost of that project. There's also a landowner, obviously, to get that confirmed from the landowner with Jones Creek running through, that he's happy with the outcome. So I'm sure from Don was going to pick it up.
Okay, sounds positive. It's connected but not connected, but I think it'd be good to get an update on where the Kamara Chinese Garden is at as well. Not now. No, it'd be good to get an update on.
Yeah, no,
not right now, but at a future meeting where that's tracking.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, because it's got MDI. It's got a whole lot of funds associated with council. So that's all from me. Thanks, Your Worship. Thanks, Simon.
Cool.
The Ross Gardens, that sounds like a good solution to me. I'm pleased that the council can pick up the resource consent and cover that, because that could have been the sticking point. But overall, given that it was a very fraught situation, I think a good outcome.
Yeah, everyone in the room is really in sync with the outcome of it. So, really pleased with the work Top did in terms of coming up with that alternative outcome as well.
Regarding the Canary pedestrian crossing, unfortunately I missed that meeting. I had intended to go. However, I still disagree with the siting of it. And I think from people I've talked to, I think the locals would be more inclined towards having something around about where by the pub across from the old hall and that vicinity is and again connecting directly with the interpretation shelter that's just been opened there. And I know that Louis has said that it was about the line of sight, etc. But it just seems odd to be an odd place to put it on that curve. However, the suggestion before from Councillor Davidson about changing the configuration of the intersection would make a huge difference to that and would nullify that argument about line of sight, because of a clean line of sight going east and west by moving it. So, and it's easily done. It's just a matter of closing off that lane of the turn left and have the traffic stop as it meets the Canary Road. And so I think that should be looked at rather than rush in.
We haven't been rushing for 2 years.
However, there has been a bit of a push on to get it underway because it's been delayed.
Bear in mind, we've, I suppose, 5 months with this action to get it actually confirmed as a point of crossing. Yeah, it's unfortunately you missed the meeting. I'll take it back once more and revisit it with that proposed change around the exit of the bridge. Obviously a reason I assume that there's a smooth turning is to ensure that there's easy giveaway area rather than stop area
Off the bridge.
Yeah.
That's just, as Councillor Martin said, it's just a hangover from the state highway.
Just through the chair, like when we were out there on that site meeting, we made observations about children on bicycles using the area, and we were very fortunate to watch these children sort of come along, and they come over the brow of the hill and they sort of looked left and right, and then they crossed over and away they went and did their business. And when they come back, they did the same thing. They come up just before the brow of the hill, they looked left and right, went over the road and onto that footpath. So it was quite good just watching, watching people use it the way it is. Interesting.
And also we raised some months ago about possibly sealing in front of the new interpretation shelter.
That was outside the scope of this. That's another discussion.
Yeah, I just want to ensure that it's still
Give a lot of oil.
and finally, regarding the Western National Park plan discussion, unfortunately what we have is a perfect storm, also friends. So we have not only a shrinking glacier, which means that it's became, for the last couple of years, hasn't been possible to climb directly onto the glacier, so you have to go by helicopter. Then the glacier, because of continuing to retreat, it's become steeper, and so we have to go further back on the glacier. It's become more difficult. Then we've had the problems with the access road, again just lately. Then we have the glacier guiding is currently suspended because of a situation up on the top of the glacier. Then we have no tourists, and in the meantime, the gondola proposal, which is a potential future lifeline for friends tourism, languishes because they can't do anything until the National Park Plan enables it. They can't do the National Park Plan until the CMS has been reviewed. And so when that now been caught up in bureaucracy.
This is exactly why we would like to talk to Mark in terms of showing him a level of support to re-engage in that process so that we can enable that process to be completed.
Bureaucracy at its best, or worst. Deputy Leader Grants.
No.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes, just one more comment about the enviro schools. Can that get done so as soon as possible, just so that it does potentially go into the regional council's planning?
So just to remind councils, we have an additional fund for rolling out to another school in our LTP. Be a good job to get support from regions.
We were going to talk to Jobs for Nature as well, weren't we? To see whether
If that would do more.
they would fund. You said something, I'm not sure if it came through as an action.
I can follow that up.
Yeah, if we follow up, Mark,
Good
because
as new action.
with one employee would bring in another school in the southwest of us.
Not full time.
Okay. Thanks, Simon. Would someone like to move that the updated action list be received? Deputy Mayor Carruthers, Councillor Davidson, those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. And move on to presentations, and it's my pleasure to invite Gil Evans. She's the Community Engagement Manager for Rural Connectivity Group. That sounds really important.
It is important.
Yes.
It's really important, your wish.
And the floor's all yours.
Oh, thank you very much. Right, now Megan, I'm pressing this button here, is that correct? Okay. Thank you so much for having me here this afternoon, Your Worship, councillors, elected members, council officers, community at home, hopefully, who are watching us through a digital medium. Quite fitting that we're here to talk about connectivity across the Western District, digital connectivity across the Western District. As His Worship has mentioned, I'm Jill Evans and I'm the Community Engagement Manager for the Rural Connectivity Group, which I think is incredibly important in this day and age. So, flick on we go. The Rural Connectivity Group is an independent entity who are contracted to deliver the Rural Broadband Initiative Phase 2 and Mobile Hotspot Programme across rural New Zealand. We are, the funding is made up of kind of two funding pools, if you like. The Telecommunications Development Levy, to the value of $150 million, and then each of the providers, Spark, Vodafone and 2 Degrees, have each put in $25 million a piece to build a network of over 500 mobile telecommunications sites across the whole of New Zealand, basically, top to bottom, left to right, side to side. The funding is administered by Crown Infrastructure Partners, albeit we are an independent entity, and the funding will see us deliver over 4G wireless broadband and 3G mobile service to over 30,000 homes, 1,000 kilometres of state highway, and 100 tourist hotspots, again, all the way across New Zealand. The unique thing about the Rural Broadband Initiative is that there is one piece of infrastructure. There are 3 providers, Spark, Vodafone and 2 Degrees, and potentially a wireless internet service provider, all sharing that one piece of infrastructure. And so, in a world where we like to declutter our roadsides and our landscapes, we're good bang for buck, I think, that's what I would call it. Okay, so this is a bit of an old slide. This is 2 weeks old, so current stats are as follows. 220 sites live as of 1 p.m. today, delivering 4G wireless broadband and mobile calling services to enable 18,500 people across, or homes and businesses across New Zealand, access to those digital services. Nearly 600 kilometres of state highway coverage with 3G, so that's just purely the ability to make phone calls whilst out on the road. 40 tourist hotspot sites to date, And on average, we are building and livening 40 mobile sites, 40 cell sites per quarter. And so just to give some context to that, under a normal kind of MNO build program, they would set aside a budget to perhaps build 10 or 20 mobile cell sites a year, and we're banging out 40 a quarter to get to our target of 500 cell sites for December 2023. We've just recently celebrated our 200 site live as well, which is very exciting. Obviously, we've surpassed that, but unfortunately, COVID squished our celebratory activities across down in the Hawke's Bay. And so that's where our cell sites are dotted, all across New Zealand. Oh, they're in Westland. I think I can see what's there. Okay, so this again, I apologise for this, 2 weeks old, this is a little bit outdated as well. So we have 26 sites confirmed for the Westland District, and those sites form part of our 400 programme and also our expansion programme. So the 400 programme falls into the Rural Broadband Initiative Phase 2 pot of cash, if you like, and that is the 4G wireless network. The expansion programme is pockets of or islands of 3G coverage along state highways. So they all kind of come within the 500 under the 500 umbrella, but obviously funded a little bit differently. So missing, I think, or I may have added it in here, would be the Clark's Bluff and the Stay Brave sites. And then we've 3 other sites that we're currently going through feasibility and business case phase with Crown Infrastructure Partners to ensure that the sites that fall into those 3 expansion programmes can actually be built, which obviously, as you know, with some of the landscape we're going to, it's very, very difficult. I think it's interesting to note that 26 sites in the Westland District is quite an incredible number, actually. When you think about the programme, you guys are kind of up there with probably the top, the top 5 or 6 areas where we will build in excess of 20 sites for North, Southland, Tasman, and Central Hawke's Bay region. So they are all regions, you're in council, which is great, district area. 26 or 24? I know it says 24, that's out of date. With 2 more to add to that is, in fact, and we're under discussion for a further 3 sites as to whether they are civilly viable or not. Basically, can we build them? Are they going to do the job they need to do? Okay, so it's interesting to note as well that of the 26 sites that we have earmarked, will hopefully cover nearly 900 homes and businesses for 4G wireless broadband, 120 kilometres of state highway with 3G coverage, and 19 tourist hotspots. So when we eventually open up our borders, we do get people back into the country, and they'll be able to post wonderful pictures and images of travelling along the West Coast. The story really of the Westland District is the 3G coverage, the state highway coverage, and the resilience it provides around kind of travel along the West Coast, emergency service access, things like that. Okay, so sites live to date within the area. Our flagship first, this is a bit of a talk, this one. The first RCG chorus-enabled site is Fox West, and we're very, very, very excited to be to turn that site on. It's been a long time coming, I think, the whole kind of chorus fibre rollout, but now it's here, and we can all get cracking on building some sites and getting you guys connected. So of those 7 sites that are up there, they are now delivering service to over 350 homes and businesses, 37.5 kilometres of state highway coverage, and 5 tourist locations. Now that's a little bit teeny tiny, but that is the list of sites that we have remaining in the Western District Council area. Hot off the press, hopefully we will be livening Karakia next week, which will basically cover 15 kilometres of state highway with 3G coverage. And again, hot off the press, Bruce Bay, we would really like to live in that site through the end of this quarter. Well, quarter 4. Do you want me to flip past this one, or do you want to keep looking?
Is there any questions?
Yeah, I wondered about that.
It's a bit hard to read, but
the one for Lake Canary, is it these negotiations and dependent upon is it backhand?
Backhall.
Backhall. Did I write that? Did it go through?
So what does that mean?
So backhaul is basically the mechanism by getting into the national communications network, and that can be done either by fibre, which is why the fibre rollout is so incredibly important along the west coast, or we can access backhaul through reaching out to another site some distance away and microwaving to that site. Backhaul basically is gold. We can't make phone calls. We can't get, provide digital connectivity without backhaul, without access to backhaul, which is why the fibre rollout is incredibly important.
So that links back to Karakia Valley, which
that is correct.
The weather station you talked about.
That's correct. Yes.
So how's that lease negotiation going? Because that's been discussed for some time, isn't it?
Very well, actually. I believe we are kind of one step away from that lease being finalised, and there are some slight design changes, which is why it's been held up ever so slightly. And I think that's probably got to do with the fact that we're actually positioning the site on their infrastructure.
So the transmitter for Canary in Karakia Valley will be the wind station.
Through the chair, no, that's not correct. We will put infrastructure, our own RCG infrastructure, onto the weather station. That will then connect in likely to fibre, and then that fibre will then be microwaved to Lake Canary. And that's how we'll work our digital connectivity around that. Okay, is there any more questions about that? Shall I click on? Thank you. Okay, so this is the little wee map of the fibre-enabled sites, which is we're aligning our work with the Chorus and fibre rollout. It just creates far more efficiencies if we can do that. I think one of the things that I would like to highlight today is that because of the conditions, we build sites and we need kind of decent weather conditions to be able to build some of those sites. We're running on a very short time frame along the west coast to be able to build some of these sites, and so what you might find, or what people at home might find, is that we've gone ahead and built some sites, and they won't be immediately live and up and running. The idea would be that we would be able to get that information out there as to what we're doing, but there's no point in us trying to build sites in winter along the west coast. And what we will do is we will just wait until the fibre comes through, and then we will connect up to the fibre. And we'll be ready to go, they'll be ready to go, and we'll be live.
So what's the physical work from Haas to Hawaii?
What's the physical?
What is the physical work from Haas to Hawaii?
That is the Chorus fibre work.
Yeah.
Well, I can't particularly speak on behalf of Chorus, but it will be laying fibre along the roadside.
The bigger drones.
Yeah, trenching along. Yes, that's correct. And I think that work has already started. Yes, they're going pretty well, actually. Yeah.
It's quite an impressive machine they've got.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, so this is the all-important slide that everybody that you're very excited about, hopefully. This is the predicted coverage from the network that the RCG will build. It's predicted, and I'm putting a huge caveat on this, because the RCG are an infrastructure provider. We don't deliver service. The services are delivered by the service providers, Spark, Vodafone, and 2 Degrees. So we position our infrastructure to predict where we need to serve, albeit we don't actually provide the service, so therefore I couldn't tell you exactly who is going to get what service from what provider, the quality of that service and the type of plan they could have and things like that. This is what we predict to cover. Okay.
Gil, the red out C, how far is it?
Sorry, I should probably explain that. I'm not entirely sure how far that is, but the red actually is the predicted coverage. So, where we see the red, that's where you can expect to be able to access 3G and 4G coverage, basically.
Have you any idea? It looks like, looking at the map, it looks like it's quite a way.
Yeah, it's definitely, I would say we're definitely catering for the fishermen on it.
Look at love it.
Yes,
Absolutely.
Hopefully, because now we know obviously we've got to put our quotas in digitally, and so that is Neil's Beach to Gillespie's Beach and Gillespie's Beach up towards And geography and terrain has a huge impact on coverage areas. The flatter the better, the less trees the better. We call it clutter. Radio waves don't generally like trees. Leaves.
In terms of there's a whole lot of flat zones within the red there. That's Harry, etc.
Yeah.
It sounded to me seemed like an easy full dots.
It'd be nice through the chair. It'd be lovely to fill the dots. As I think I'll go back to kind of my initial introduction, we're working within a government contract, and our metrics are very, very specific. And what we are building is within that contract.
Right.
Just a comment really that the ones that have gone, sites that have gone live so far include Kukura population 2 or 3, Lake Wahapa population 0.
Yeah.
So, and then there's those gaps. Chief Executive points out there some obvious gaps. So some Wellington's come up with priorities for this. How do they do it? I don't know.
I think we've been working with them on the consenting process, and some of these are very straightforward consenting process, so easy wins, for example. The more challenging builds are on the DOPA state as well, which requires sign off from them. So some of the stuff that's no-brainers and can happen tomorrow, and that's why they've gone live later. I know what you're saying.
Yes, well, I mean, with respect to Mr. Sultan, who's probably the only one that's thankful for the service at Pukekura, I don't see the priority for it, but anyway, I'm missing something.
So Gil, you're unlikely to comment on the wireless in Wellington.
I probably won't. Not in a live forum. Sorry, worship.
We're not some of those though to cover the highway.
Yes.
A lot of those ones are there.
Yes, however, as the Chief Executive points out, there's look at the map around Harry for there's some obvious lowland areas that have huge gaps.
Yeah, through the chair, could I answer that? So you have picked up on Kura. The site itself is covering 14 kilometres of state highway, and that I think is its main purpose. That's its purpose at the moment. I can't comment on Harry. It doesn't form part of our work programme. It's not earmarked within the contract that we're working with within. And we do get a lot of inquiries from the lovely Lynn in Harry. And so we do pass those through to crowd infrastructure partners. And who knows what the future brings by way of additional connectivity.
So it's just, sorry, Jill, the question is, the gaps in between, is if there's a business need, how do we channel that? Is that back through you or back to crowd infrastructure partners directly?
Yes, I through the chair, I don't think we're opposed to kind of being that conduit, but we would like to know, because we like to know what's going on across the board. It's good for us to have that kind of overview of where connectivity is missing, but I do think it's crowd infrastructure partners that you need to direct that back through, being the link back towards government and government funding.
So I had the one on the top of Hercules. That was not kind of quite a lot of Karakia.
Well, just going on the red zones, if you go back to the slide.
Yes, I haven't actually finished. I'd like to apologise about it. Is this the one you want?
Yeah. So you can see all the empty farmland there, there's no coverage at all. Whereas farmers and future state council probably technology advanced in farming requires some sort of connectivity as well. So in flatline areas are easy to hit, but obviously it would need to have a nice situated tower along there somewhere to actually cover those zones.
Yep, correct. Sorry, and then I think the all important, shall I move on?
Floor's yours.
Oh, thanks. I just want to make sure that everyone's got the questions, and that's, we should interact as we go. And Mo, here we go. The question of the moment. As I noted this morning, there is a media piece about Akuru. Yes, Akuru. We are incredibly hopeful that next quarter, that quarter 4 this year, this site will be live and delivering 3G, 4G wireless connectivity to the community. Hopeful. We're reliant on some relationships, third-party relationships that we have little influence over at the moment, and we're keeping close to that. So yes, I know it's been a long time coming, but hopefully this quarter will be the quarter. And HAST, I believe that we've gone through a lease negotiation process. Hopefully, Sam and I'm not talking out of turn here. Would you like to tell the pitch floor on that?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Okay, cool. I'll take the floor on this one. Okay, so a lease negotiation process whereby we've agreed lease terms with council. We have a COC for a site in HAST. And we're hopeful that that site we will start commence build and have that site live spring summer 2021. And then that will be, if all goes to plan, that will be the backhaul for our Akuru site, a permanent backhaul solution for our Akuru site.
Right.
So, what area does it cover us?
So I know what you're talking about now.
Okay. Through the chair. So in essence, it's going to, we have a temporary site at HAST at the moment, but just 3G only. This particular site will be 3G, 4G. And it will sit right next to the temporary site. We'll remove the temporary site and it will cover the whole of the HAST township and down towards the state highway as well. So we, instead of building a couple of sites to do the job, we're just going to consolidate and build one site and that will do the job.
So how far south?
So we're going down towards the state highway. And then there'll be some state highway coverage just going through. I should find that out for you.
Like Neil's Beach?
Oh, we have a site at Neil's Beach, so we already have a site at Neil's Beach. So, technology, digital technology, wireless broadband technology is limited by geography and terrain. And so, we probably couldn't cover a wide area with the geography that we have around kind of the West Coast area, Westland District area. And so we need to build a couple of sites, and those sites will basically just kind of be popped
include likes of Hannah's Clearing?
Hannah's Clearing is not part of this programme. I have spoken to a couple of people from Hannah's Clearing, and they're just incredibly happy that they don't have to travel as far to get a mobile phone call or do their banking. And so it will mean a bit of travel, but not to us. It will be just kind of head a shorter distance.
Thank you.
And I think that's my last slide.
Questions?
I think we've done questions, but I'm happy to take any more questions.
Paul?
Regarding the Hurst, did I hear correctly that the permanent Hurst site will be live, hopefully, in spring, summer this year?
Yes, through the chair. Yes, that's our aim. I mean, lots of things happen between now, but we're pushing hard to get that sorted. And we've gone through a kind of RMA process, the COC. It's pretty
very straightforward.
all right to build. So the only thing that will stop that is any potential community kind of uproar. But I would imagine people are really wanting the service, so that would be really great.
So that conjunction with the fibre, which is now then, is essential for Parliament Pathway Hurst.
Yes. Yeah.
So the super
Yes. And which again we are reliant on how fibre is produced.
Any other questions, councillors?
Just the Okuru one. This is the site that's been sitting there as an ornament for the last while.
That is correct. And you might see a few more of those. As I just kind of described earlier, we have a short build window along the west coast area, and so now is the time for us to build sites. So what we will do is we will build as many sites as we can that we have permission or right to build. And those sites may sit there for a month or two until the fibre is brought down and connected, and then we'll connect those sites up. But I anticipate another community newsletter to let people know exactly what's going on, and we'll kind of hone into those communities as well to make sure that we get our message across. It won't be the extended period that you've experienced.
Just one other through the chair. Can you just explain for me, sorry because I'm a bit thick, as to Rural Connectivity Group and Crown Infrastructure Parks? I'm lost.
So Crown Infrastructure Partners are a government affiliated agency, and I think they are funded, or the funding comes through MB and the business information. And basically they have contracted the independent entity that is the Rural Connectivity Group to roll out the Rural Broadband Initiative and Mobile Black Spot Fund programs. So we're basically a service provider to Crown Infrastructure Partners, and they administer the funding to us. They manage our how our workload is tracking.
So hence the similarities with the presentation we had only a couple of months ago.
Was that me from Graham?
Yes.
And that is correct, yes. Yeah.
We are still to come along as more focused just on Westland for the council.
Are there any other questions, councillors? Look, it's Jill or Jill?
It's Jill.
Jill. Look,
it's a South
first of all, thank you so much for coming along. Enjoyed the presentation. The people watching today will have enjoyed it. There's a lot of questions that have been answered, and you've made huge progress in the last 3 years. It's incredible.
It is.
It really is. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
We'll look forward to your return.
Yeah, perfect. That's lovely. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Councillors, would someone like to move the presentation from Jill Evans, Community Engagement Manager of the Rural Connectivity Group, be received? Councillor Neal, thank you. Councillor Hart. Those in favour?
Aye.
That's pretty good. Move on to item 8 on the agenda, the staff report, which the first one is the financial performance for February 2021. And councillors, it's on your agenda, pages 9 to 23. And Prabhat, it's all yours.
Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors and staff. I would like to take the report as read and happy to answer any questions you have to your chair.
Thank you. We'll take the report as read and we'll go around the table. Could we start with you, Deputy Mayor Karakia?
Aside about is there anything in the report that you think you need to draw our attention to in particular?
Just one more thing that you can, as you can see in the reports, the grants are quite higher than one plan. At the end of the year, we have an adjustment for the grant based on the spending. Because some of the grants have conditions attached to them, we can't identify the total grants as they come. So we are in the process of doing that journal so that we will reduce some of the grants income. So I'd like to,
So does that account for the increase in the total revenue amount? You say it's 38% more than the budget. Is that the grant? Right. So you're going to, from the accounting point of view, change how those are treated?
Yeah, so part of that will be a liability. So we can't recognize later on when we spend that money. So we'll be doing some adjustments at the year end. But we have started looking at that adjustment. So the program is to indicate that in the forecast column for the next month.
That skews the figures there, does it?
Yeah, it does.
Okay, thank you.
It's almost like income in advance, isn't it?
Yeah.
Paul. No questions. Councillor Martin.
No questions. Thanks for the report.
Councillor Hart.
I just have one on the balance sheet, statement of financial position. Just when we talk about current liabilities, other in the annual plan, there's 395, and then February it's got just over $1 million. What does that relate to?
So that's relating to rates received in advance. So what happens when we invoice for the 3 months period? So since this is February, there's 1 month that's not received in advance.
So that's it. Yeah, that's cool. That's all from me.
Francois.
No, I'm all good, thanks.
Councillor Neal.
No, just a comment for that. Thank you very much for the confidence and the ease with which you answer our questions without even opening your computer. Thank you. Appreciate that.
And Councillor Davis.
No, thank you.
Your Worship, I just want to make one comment about the project. You see that it says tracking 21%, but that's actually only completed projects. So what I'd like to highlight is there's a whole lot of spend in the space that is yet to have invoices against. So we've raised purchase orders and equipment is arriving, etc. So it's another line that needs to go consider as committed capital. So just to highlight that the program is fast tracking. So just to assure you, we're not sitting at 20%.
I think it highlights the fact that you're collecting the money up front as quick as you can, and very happy about that. Would someone like to move that the financial performance report for February 2021 be received? Move it. Thank you, Councillor Neal. Councillor Hart. Those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. Move on to item 9 on the agenda, which is an administrative resolution. Thanks for that. Good man. See you later. And it's, what have we got? We've got one or two? Just the one. This is the approval to grant Andrew Peter Gilmore the warrant of appointment as a building control officer. So I'd like to resolve or move that the council confirm the seal being fixed. The following document is listed on the agenda, which is the warrant. So move. Deputy Mayor Carruthers, thank you. Councillor Martin, those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is a resolution to go into public excluded. Before I do that, I'd like to thank those in the public that are watching the meeting. Hope you've enjoyed it. Certainly the presentation from Jill was very interesting, and I hope you join in with the next meeting we have. I'd like to move that council move into the public excluded section of the meeting. I'll ask for a second. Councillor Hart, all those in favour?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Now,